Every life has a story. Some are told, others wait to be revealed. Stay with us. This is Daily Dose.
There is a specific kind of silence that falls over a monarchy when the walls are finally closing in, and it is not a peaceful silence. It is not the quiet of a family at rest. It is the dead, suffocating quiet that comes right before the executioner's blade drops. Right now, if you could stand outside the gates of Windsor Castle, if you could press your ear to the cold stone of those ancient walls, that is exactly the silence you would hear. Because at 3:07 p.m. on February 25, 2026, while the global media was still collectively paralyzed, while every news camera on the planet was still fixated on the flashing police lights outside the home of Prince Andrew, a second strike was detonated. A strike so precise, so lethal, and so devastatingly timed that it makes the arrest of the Duke of York look like simply the opening act in a much darker play. And that strike was delivered not by Scotland Yard, not by the FBI, not by any external force, but from within the walls of the palace itself. It was delivered by the hand of King Charles III, and it landed not in London, not in the halls of Parliament, but 5,000 miles away, on the manicured doorstep of a Montecito mansion, where Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were likely sitting down for their afternoon tea, completely unaware that their entire future had just been sealed in a red wax envelope. You need to understand the genius of this moment. You need to understand why February 25, 2026 will go down in the history books as the day the British monarchy stopped playing defense and started playing for keeps. For years we have watched this saga unfold. We have watched the interviews, the documentaries, the books, the briefings, the leaks, the tears, the accusations. Through it all, the palace has maintained what they call the stiff upper lip. They have kept calm and carried on. They have absorbed the blows and refused to strike back. But what we are witnessing right now, what is unfolding in real time as I speak to you, is the complete and total abandonment of that strategy. In its place, we are seeing something the world has never witnessed from the House of Windsor. We are seeing a king who has decided that the institution he was born to protect is worth more than the blood that runs through his own veins. That is a terrifying thing to witness, because when a father stops seeing his son as a son and starts seeing him as an infection, when a monarch stops hoping for reconciliation and starts planning for eradication, the results are brutal and they are final. What was delivered to Harry today is not a suggestion. It is not an invitation to talk. It is not an olive branch wrapped in diplomatic language. It is a guillotine. It is a 30-day countdown to either total surrender or total annihilation. As the sun sets on this historic day, imagine the scene inside that Montecito home. Picture the moment that blacked-out SUV pulled up to the gate, the moment a courier stepped out holding an envelope that bore the mark of the Crown estate, the moment Harry's hand reached out to take that document, probably thinking it was some routine paperwork, some administrative formality related to his trust funds or his charitable patronage. Then imagine the moment he opened it. Imagine the blood draining from his face as he read the words that his own father had signed, because this was not a letter. This was not a plea from a worried parent. This was a legal instrument. This was a constitutional death warrant, and its message could not be clearer. You have 30 days, Harry. 30 days to divorce the woman who has, in the eyes of the palace, orchestrated the destruction of your reputation and your relationship with your family. 30 days to return to the United Kingdom alone, to walk away from everything you have built in California, to admit that the last 6 years were a catastrophic mistake. And if you do not do that, if you choose to stand by your wife, if you choose to remain in Montecito, if you choose to fight, then on the 30th day, the Crown will strip you of everything. Not just your royal titles, not just your access to the family trust funds, but your very place in the line of succession. Your children will be removed from the line entirely. Your security detail will be reassigned to the control of the Home Office, and you will cease to exist in the eyes of the British monarchy. You will become Henry Mountbatten Windsor, a private citizen with a massive mortgage, a fading brand, and no connection to the institution that has defined your entire existence. The question you have to ask yourself, The question that Harry is probably asking himself right now as he stares at that document in disbelief is why now? Why this specific moment? Why February 25th? And the answer to that question is the key to understanding just how cornered Harry truly is. If you look at the news cycle today, if you look at what every major news outlet is covering, you will see that Prince Andrew has just been arrested. Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, the disgraced brother of the king, has finally faced the consequences of his association with Jeffrey Epstein. And the world is transfixed. In that chaos, in that media firestorm, King Charles saw his opportunity. He realized that if he dropped this ultimatum on Harry right now, right in the middle of the Andrew arrest coverage, it would be buried. It would be overshadowed. Any attempt by Harry and Meghan to cry foul, to go to the press, to do another interview would be drowned out by the much darker, much more visceral scandal of a royal prince being led away in handcuffs. That is not a coincidence. That is not luck. That is strategic genius of the highest order. Inside that envelope, the document that Harry now holds, it is identified in internal palace logs by a code name that should send chills down your spine. They are calling it Gray Suit Manual 1. That name is not random. It is a reference to the legal mechanism that is about to be deployed. What the palace has done, what the king's lawyers have spent months preparing, is a legislative trigger that ties Harry's fate directly to Andrew's. By allowing the full weight of the law to fall on Prince Andrew, by letting the arrest happen, by letting the world see that no one is above the law, not even the king's own brother, King Charles has established a precedent. He has proven that the monarchy can and will purge its own. And once that precedent is set, once the public has accepted that a blood prince can be stripped of his titles and his dignity, it becomes infinitely easier to do the same to another. That is the trap that Harry is now caught in. If he does not comply with this ultimatum, the king will simply apply the Andrew blueprint to him. He will go to Parliament, he will invoke the Titles Deprivation Act, and he will have Harry formally removed from the line of succession. And there will be no public outcry, because the public will have already seen it done. They will have already accepted that the monarchy is cleaning house, and Harry will just be the second name on a list that starts with Andrew. This is the moment where we have to pause and really think about what this means for Meghan Markle. If you have been following this story for any length of time, you know that Meghan is not the type to go down without a fight. You know that she has spent the last 6 years building a brand, building a narrative, building an empire based on her status as a wronged woman, as a victim of an institution that could not accept her. Now, in the face of this ultimatum, she is reportedly preparing what insiders are calling the Great Backtrack, a pivot in their narrative that seeks to rewrite the entire history of Megxit. According to sources close to the couple, Meghan is about to launch a new media project, likely a memoir or a high-stakes documentary. In it, she will make a shocking new claim. She will argue that their 2020 flight from the United Kingdom was never actually about race. Instead, she will now position herself and Harry as the ultimate whistleblowers, the ones who saw the truth about Prince Andrew long before the public did, the ones who realized that the palace was covering up for a predator. She will claim that they had to extract their children, Archie and Lilibet, from that environment because they refused to allow their family to be associated with a man like Andrew. This is an attempt to transform their image from royal destroyers into moral protectors, to use Andrew as a human shield to deflect from their own failures, from the collapse of their Spotify deal, from their plummeting popularity in Hollywood, from the growing perception that they are simply bitter exile who cannot let go of the institution they claim to despise. But here is the problem with this strategy. If they were so concerned about Andrew's alleged crimes, if they were so horrified by the palace cover-up, why was he never mentioned in the opera interview? Why did they sit there talking about concerns over Archie's skin tone and never once bring up the man who was actually accused of crimes against children? Why did they spend years cozying up to Andrew's own daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie? Why did they shield Andrew from their public vitriol and instead focus their attacks on William and Catherine? The answer is simple, because they did not care about Andrew. They did not care about justice. They cared about their own narrative. And now that Andrew is in handcuffs, they are shamelessly weaponizing his downfall to save their own reputations. We can now reveal that a financial asphyxiation order has been issued. This order has not only frozen Prince Andrew's remaining assets following his arrest, but it has been extended to the royal trust funds currently being accessed by Prince Harry. A senior source at the Treasury has reportedly stated that these accounts are now under administrative review due to the ongoing constitutional crisis. For Harry, this is a catastrophe. His lifestyle in Montecito, the security, the lawyers, the PR teams, the private schools for the children, the lavish parties, the whole California dream, it is fueled by the very institution he is attacking. And by freezing his access to these trusts at the same time as Andrew's, the king has effectively cut the oxygen to the Sussex brand. This is the satisfaction of seeing the rules finally enforced. The king is no longer pleading, he is governing. By linking Harry's financial fate to Andrew's legal downfall, Charles has stripped away Harry's status as a special case. In the eyes of the British state, he is now just another liability to be managed. This brings us to a moment that should chill every royal watcher to the bone. While all of this is happening, while the financial noose is tightening, while the 30-day clock is ticking, Prince William, the heir to the throne, the man who will one day be king, has just shattered centuries of royal protocol. He stood on the red carpet at the BAFTAs in London, and when asked about the state of the monarchy amidst his uncle's arrest and the ongoing war with his brother, he looked the world in the eye and abandoned the family's famous stiff upper lip. William reportedly told officials, "I am not in a calm state. I cannot keep calm. Everything is at risk and the limit has been reached." If those words do not send a shiver down your spine, then you have not been paying attention, because William is the most reserved of the brothers. He is the one who has always played by the rules, who has always kept his emotions in check, who has always projected an image of stoic duty. For him to say publicly that he cannot keep calm, that the limit has been reached, tells you that what is happening behind palace walls is far more serious than any of us can imagine. The palace has officially moved from a defensive posture to an offensive purge. They are executing what insiders are calling Operation Cauterize. The objective is brutal and binary. Remove the predator, Andrew, and isolate the traitor, Harry, in one single swift motion to save the 1,000-year-old institution from total collapse. The decision to issue this ultimatum was not made lightly, and it was not made in isolation. Insiders within the Lord Chamberlain's office suggest that the king's patience did not just run dry. It turned into ice. During a highly classified meeting at Sandringham on February 12th, just 2 weeks before the Andrew arrest, Charles reportedly sat across from William and a team of constitutional lawyers. The king's words, as recounted by those in the room, were final. He said, "We can no longer allow the infection to spread. If we do not cut the ties now, there will be no crown left for the next generation." Those words hang in the air like a prophecy, because Charles is not just thinking about his own reign. He is thinking about William's future, about George's future, about the long arc of history, and what the monarchy will look like in 50 years. In his view, Harry and Meghan are not just a distraction. They are an existential threat. They are a parallel operation that constantly undermines the institution, that constantly feeds stories to the press, that constantly positions themselves as the alternative, the modern ones, the ones who tell the truth, while the palace is portrayed as cold, unfeeling, and racist. And Charles has finally decided that enough is enough. This brings us to the most devastating aspect of the ultimatum, the hidden clause that changes everything for the Sussex children. The document delivered at 3:07 p.m. contains a specific provision regarding the security of Archie and Lilibet. It states that if Harry does not comply within the 30-day window, the protection detail for his children will no longer be under Sussex control. Instead, the legal authority over their security will be formally transferred to a specialized unit, reporting directly to the UK Home Office and the Crown Estate. In simple terms, if Harry chooses Meghan over the king, he loses the right to dictate how and where his children are protected. The king is not just taking the titles. He is reclaiming the institutional custody of the royal bloodline. As the 30-day clock ticks into its second day, reports indicate that the atmosphere inside the Sussex mansion is one of pure, unadulterated panic. A source close to the couple claims that Meghan's immediate reaction was not one of sadness, but of strategic fury. She was overheard saying, "They are using Andrew as a shield to destroy us. They think they can bury this 30-day threat under the arrest headlines, but they have no idea what I am prepared to release." That threat hangs in the air like smoke, because we all know that Meghan has been stockpiling material for years. Diaries, recordings, text messages, emails. She has been preparing for this war for a long time. But the question is, does she have anything that can actually stop what is coming? From everything we are hearing, the answer is no, because the king has already anticipated the retaliation. By utilizing the double cauterize protocol, the monarchy is telling the world that they are cleaning house top to bottom. They are removing the moral stain of Andrew and the reputational threat of Harry in one clinical procedure. We now have to look at the contrast playing out in real time between two very different women, two very different approaches to royalty. On the same day that Meghan is reportedly burning up the phone lines to Hollywood PR firms, on the same day that she is scrambling to salvage her brand, the Princess of Wales appeared at the BAFTAs looking every inch the future queen. Catherine chose to wear a recycled pink Gucci dress, a dress first worn in 2019. In that choice, she sent a message more powerful than any interview or documentary could ever convey. She signaled sustainability. She signaled restraint. She signaled that true royalty does not need new clothes to shine. Now look at the alternative. In a video that has gone viral over the last 48 hours, Harry and Meghan were spotted at an NBA game, and the contrast is humiliating. In the footage, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are seen looking around almost desperately, hoping for a reaction from the crowd or the players. But the reality was deafening. They were ignored. The players walked past them without a second glance. The Hollywood royalty narrative has been exposed as a total mirage. The victim narrative that Meghan Markle built her brand on has been dwarfed by a much darker reality. Major luxury fashion houses and streaming giants are reportedly freezing negotiations with Ultimatum, because the Sussexes are no longer the exclusive bridge to the crown. They are now seen as a liability in a family that is being aggressively cleaned by the king. The value of their brand is in freefall because, for the first time, they are not the main event. They are just the unlucky satellites caught in a storm that is much bigger than their Montecito mansion. This brings us to the scenario tree of this crisis, the point where the path forks into three distinct, life-altering directions. King Charles has reportedly established a wall of total radio silence. There are no more FaceTime calls to the grandchildren, no more emotional texts, no more heart-to-heart pleas. A palace source confirms that the king has issued a standing order. All communication from the Duke of Sussex must go through the solicitors of the Crown Estate. Harry is no longer being treated as a son. He is being handled as a legal liability. Scenario 1 is what insiders are calling the White Knight delusion. Harry is currently operating under a desperate hope that the Andrew scandal will be his salvation. His logic is flawed but simple. If Uncle Andrew is a criminal, then his own media complaints must look minor in comparison. Harry allegedly believes that the king will be so desperate for a positive royal story that he will invite Harry back as a working royal to fill the void left by Andrew's arrest. The probability of this is less than 5%. The palace has already leaked a firm rejection of this fantasy. To the crown, Harry is not the lesser of two evils. He is part of the same infection that needs to be cauterized. Scenario 2 is the total exile, and this is the nuclear path. In this version, Harry chooses to stand his ground in Montecito. He rejects the 30-day ultimatum and attempts to use Meghan's Andrew Shield strategy to attack the king's moral authority. He stays with Meghan and prepares for a media war. The consequence of this is what lawyers are calling the Andrew blueprint. If Harry does not comply by the 30th day, the king will trigger the same legislative mechanism used on Andrew. His titles will be placed in abeyance. His children will be removed from the line of succession, and he will be formally designated as a private citizen, Henry Mountbatten Windsor, A man with a massive mortgage, no royal protection, and a brand that has been legally stripped of its only value. Finally, there is Scenario 3, The Great Escape. This is the only lifeline left on the table. In this version, Harry realizes the trap is closing. He files for divorce within the 30-day window and negotiates a secret phased return to the United Kingdom. He returns alone, enters a period of royal rehabilitation away from the cameras, and agrees to a lifetime of silence in exchange for financial security and the preservation of his titles. This is the path the king is secretly rooting for, but it requires Harry to admit to the world that his last 6 years were a catastrophic mistake. The tension in Montecito has reached a breaking point because Harry knows that Charles is no longer bluffing. By refusing to take his calls and forcing him to speak to Crown Estate lawyers, the king has removed the emotional leverage Harry has used for years. You cannot guilt-trip a legal contract. You cannot gaslight a deadline. As we approach the final moments of this update, we must return to that chilling moment at the BAFTAs. Why was Prince William truly not in a calm state? Why did the future king look like a man haunted by a ghost? It was not just the arrest of his Uncle Andrew. It is because of what is hidden inside the Andrew deposition files, a set of documents suppressed for years, but now being unsealed by federal authorities following this morning's arrest. There is a name in those files, a name that connects the dark world of the York scandal to the inner circle of the Sussexes in California, a secret that could pull down even those Harry believes are his greatest allies. Was William's distress a warning to his brother? Or was it the realization that Operation Cauterize is about to reveal a betrayal that no one, not even the king, was prepared for? The clock is ticking. The lawyers are silent. The king is waiting, and the countdown continues.
If this story moved you, leave a like and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to know. The truth continues tomorrow. Until then, this was your daily dose